Good morning, guys. July 18th, 7:07 a.m. So again, 2 days in a row. I'm jumping on here just a few minutes behind, but trying to get all of the digital bugs worked out before I kick it off this morning. But good to see you this morning or whenever you're watching this. I know it's going to be broadcast later as well. My audio video guy is going to criticize my camera angle, so working on that. But I didn't have my platform to set my laptop on. But sorry, Kason, I'll work on that, getting all the digital stuff together. But good to see you this morning. I want to give you guys a campaign update, what's happening in the campaign, and then UFC and politics. It seems like with Trump's relationship with Dana White, that only grows stronger. And could we be seeing a major UFC event at the White House? I find that very interesting. And then the CBDC, something that I, along with so many others, have been concerned about, is the central bank digital system. Well, I think that we have some protection, and it's kind of mixed. I mean, there's a couple of bills that were recently passed that one, it seems, offers protection. Another one may open a loophole for that. I'm going to briefly talk about that because I'm going to discuss it later on my podcast in more detail. And yeah, let's kick it off. So, update on the campaign. First, I'd like to kick it off saying, help us get out there. My X page, formerly known as Twitter. I feel like I still have to say that for some people. I said X the other day, and somebody said, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Twitter." And oh, okay. So some people are still catching up a little bit. Understand? And it's now officially X. And my X page was hacked, and I got an email randomly that said your X page has been assigned to a different email. And I've not been able to recover that. So didn't have a massive following, but I did have a couple thousand, I think. And I'm trying to up my social media game all around. And anyway, starting from scratch, but man, been just climbing pretty steadily on the new X followers. So I really appreciate that. You can help with that. I only have a campaign X account. So it's Jake Merrick 4gov. 4 is the number 4. And, you can help grow that and, open up those algorithms, get the message out. It was the message that I brought to Krebs last night. I'll give you some details on that. But first, be sure to tag someone. I need to do better about tagging myself, but tag someone with this broadcast and share it. Let people know that it's being streamed. Come here every morning, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m., 7-ish a.m. I was up here at 7:06 a.m. this morning. But yeah, be sure to help me get the message out and across the state of Oklahoma. I went out to Krebs last night. That's in Pittsburgh County by McAllister. And a small town, but lots of energy there in the GOP. So very active, strong GOP base. And it was just a wonderful time. I tell you, you never know what you're going to see or hear at some of these meetings, but get out there and just a strong GOP base there in Krebs. Really appreciate Logan inviting me out, and was happy to see Senator Warren Hamilton there. So I knew it was in his territory, but wasn't sure if he was going to be there, and he surprised me. And of course, he gave an update on what he worked on throughout the legislative session this last time, and great stuff, including increasing the penalty for child sex offenders. Tremendous work that he's doing there, and then also announced an interim study that he's going to be working on that's going to be looking at closing the loophole that's still allowing the Chinese to buy land in Oklahoma. So I'm fully on board with that. That's what I've been talking about all over the state, wherever I go, is this is one of the critical issues, is closing that loophole so that Chinese, our direct competition, direct enemy, cannot come in and buy Oklahoma soil. Very important. We did have a law in place, and it was a good bill originally. Senator Bullard carried that bill, and this was a couple of years ago, but they took it behind the curtain and worked on it a bit until it was, as a lot of bills, no longer a good bill, and got it passed, but still opened this loophole, basically saying that only citizens can buy land in Oklahoma, or if they intend to become citizens. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I think you just have to be opposed to the agenda entirely, because common sense tells you this makes this bill, this neuters the bill. So that needs to be closed up. That caveat needs to be removed from the bill, because the question is out there. There are those out there, even some in the conservative camp, that say, well, shouldn't other countries have a right to come in and buy? No, I don't think there is. And we need to make that very clear, that we're going to require that you be an American citizen, and we'll prioritize Oklahomans to Oklahoma land. And so I was glad to see that Senator Warren Hamilton was working on that, and so many other great things. It was good to see him there at the meeting last night in Krebs, and had a chance to just speak on my campaign, and great support. I thought it was well received, great support out there in Pittsburgh County. I did not know that Krebs was the kind of like the little Italy of Oklahoma. So we did not get a chance to try any Italian food, so we've got to go back now. But by the time we got out, all the restaurants had closed. So we got in kind of late, got in bed about 1 a.m. this morning, but up running and gunning again. So I have to go make it back out to Krebs, though, and try some Italian food. I've heard it's great and didn't know. That's one of the things I love about traveling the state, is you learn about these little these things about the communities and towns, like Rush Springs with their watermelons. Every little town, it seems like, has their little niche, but Krebs was Italian, I guess. So got to go back there and try that. I had a chance to talk about my platform and why I'm running, and I guess the next stop, let me see what the next stop is here. Well, actually, it's going to be in Tulsa. So going to the Republican Women's Club in South Tulsa in Jinx on Monday. So look forward to seeing the ladies out there, ladies and men. I think that sometimes they open it up for men to come and be a part of their meetings. And so Republican Women's Club, South Tulsa, Jinx City Hall. Looking forward to that. That'll be on Monday. I'm going to maximize my time out there in Tulsa, meeting with a few other people and groups while I'm out there. And, if you're out in Tulsa and would like to connect while I'm out there, I'm going to go a day early and stay all day on Monday, but love to connect with you. So if you'd like to connect, then shoot me a message, Jake at jakemerrickforgovernor.com. Also be sure to go to jakemerrickforgovernor.com and check out the platform. And I've been asked about donation links. So yeah, I do need to, I'm actually my web guy, good friend of mine that designed the website. He is, I'm going to meet with him. We're going to talk about making sure the site is streamlined, like adding a donation link, kind of important. So we'll get that added to it. And I'll post the link for donation later on X as well. But check out the links in the description, YouTube channels, website, X account, social media stuff. So all of that. All right. UFC and DC seem like they have a strong relationship. Of course, I think we all know about Donald Trump and his friendship with Dana White, the president of the UFC. And I just find this so interesting because I'm a fan of mixed martial arts and the UFC. I followed it for years. Seriously considered, getting more involved. I've trained in jiu-jitsu for years, but have never stayed at one location long enough. I've kind of had enough interest to pop in and get some training, learn about it, get some great workouts in. But it seems like I've been in transition, moving from different places. I haven't been from place to place that I haven't been able to stay there long enough to advance. So still technically a white belt, but I feel confident, rolling with the blue or purple belt. And it's a ton of fun. I'm actually working on getting back involved again. So we'll see how far that goes. But I think this is hilarious. Trump and Dana White's their relationship, hilarious in a good way. Trump is appealing to a whole nother audience out there with the UFC crowd, mixed martial arts crowd. And, of course, we've seen him attending the UFC fights. And now we're talking about for the 250th anniversary of our nation, bringing the UFC to the White House. And it's such a big deal that it's attracted the attention of John Bones Jones. And if you don't know UFC, well, he is considered to be probably the greatest mixed martial artist, UFC fighter, some say fighter in general, in history. Just so skilled, so smooth. And so he retired just recently, and he's vowed to come out of retirement just because of the potential fight and in the White House lawn in DC. And he's a strong patriot. And I was so happy to see many people, including myself, were disappointed to see him retire, although he's been in the game for so long now. I remember watching his very first fight, and he was just a standout from the beginning. He finally just racked up the titles and the W's. Now he's saying he's going to come back out of retirement. It should be a massive event. We'll see who all lines up. They're even talking about Conor McGregor possibly coming out of retirement to fight in this fight. So if you're a fan of the UFC, then that's something to look forward to. Of course, next year is going to be, I think, out of this world. What an amazing time to be able to celebrate the 250th anniversary birthday of our nation. And I'm looking forward to it myself. And I hope to lock in this win for this campaign and celebrate in a very big way. So we'll be celebrating the 250th birthday of our nation from the Oklahoma Capitol. That's what I want to do. And maybe we'll have to have a UFC event there. So I saw this clip and I thought it was hilarious. If you're, again, a UFC fan, you know who Herb Dean is. He has been a long time ref in the UFC, very well respected. And in this recent match, some of the antics and drama that happens in the ring, well, you just never know what's going to happen. So in this particular clip I'm going to play you, the guy has his opponent in a headlock, and while he's got him incapacitated for a moment, leading up to the bell ringing, he starts kissing him on the back of the head. And when the bell rings, they both stand up. And of course, the man that was kissed takes offense to this and walks over and lets him have it. And I love Herb Dean's reaction to this. Check.
He's laughing at him.
Hey! What is going on? That was your fault.
Not out.
Hey,
Time was not out.
You shouldn't have done the kissing.
He kissed him.
He kissed him. He kissed him. It's hilarious. Let me play that one more time.
Just staring at him. He's laughing at him.
Hey! What is going on? That was your fault.
Not out.
Hey,
Time was not
you
out.
shouldn't have done the kissing.
He kissed him.
He kissed him. So not only is this hilarious, but I'm just thinking, I love Herb Dean's response on that first. You shouldn't have done the kissing. I'm sorry. You got sucker punched, but you shouldn't have done the kissing. And I'm just thinking, can we not apply those same rules to politics? You got your butt beat, but hey, you should have been stupid. You shouldn't have been stupid. And, I think since we're inviting the UFC to DC, we should go ahead and apply the same rules. Okay. We should just go ahead and allow. Hey, if you get side shocked, if you get sucker punched, then shouldn't have done the kissing. You should have kept your mouth closed. I want to bring Herb Dean into politics, and maybe we could line some things out. So just thought that was hilarious. I want to look at this recent act that was passed. There's a few different ones that have kind of gone under the radar. I want to bring your attention to, and there are three crypto bills. And again, I'm going to talk and check that out. Jake for the State podcast had a great interview yesterday on here with Colonel Allen West, and I included that in the podcast yesterday. I spoke about the Supreme Court's decision to support Donald Trump in his effort to eliminate the Federal Department of Education. So that's a big news. And then I also tied that to another seemingly unrelated issue with Ram trucks. Yeah, Ram diesel trucks that are now being offered. The owners of these trucks are being offered the free upgrade to the DEF system. So they can come in and digitally upgrade. And so interesting because Ram is even offering like this cooler full of items as this gift package, kind of bribing people to come in and do this free upgrade. Well, this was in response to a recent rule by the EPA that's requiring more stringent DEF diesel exhaust fluid is what that stands for diesel engines. And so more stringent requirements for these diesel engines requiring more DEF. And what I've been saying is DEF is simply an indirect tax on the people as dictated by the EPA. Now, we saw the overturning of the Chevron deference, and I think that was a big win. But I think still, as evident by this new rule by the EPA, we need to go further. I'm glad that the dictates of these agencies, they cannot carry the force of law as before, but we still need to give it additional scrutiny and clean this up. I was just concerned about this requirement, this new rule that would require diesel truck manufacturers to require more DEF, which is going to be an increased cost on diesel truck owners. And we'll listen to the podcast and tell me what you think. But I talked about that and linking that to the Supreme Court decision related to the Federal Department of Education, because both the Federal Department of Education and the EPA are bureaucratic agencies that have way too much influence and control. And I'm glad to see the Federal Department of Education being dissolved and putting the power back in the hands of the states. Very positive thing. Check out that podcast, Jake for the State podcast, and I'll post a link to it in the social media, both Facebook and X and different places. But I'll be talking more about these acts that were recently passed concerning crypto, and more importantly, I believe CBDC. So we had the Clarity Act, and it was passed in a vote of 294, 134. 78 Democrats voting in favor of it. So it seemed like a pretty clear bipartisan effort. And let's see. Then we had the Genius Act, and it passed with a vote of 308 to 122 with 102 Democrats voting in favor. And then there was an anti-CBDC Act passed in a vote of 219 to 210. So I wanted to bring those to your attention: the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, and the Anti-CBDC Act. And just a few details on a couple of those, the Genius Act and the CBDC Act. And I believe this applies to everyone. So it's definitely an Oklahoma related story because there's great concern about CBDC. And, this, of course, is central bank digital currency. And the concern with CBDC is once the government has control of your bank account through digital currency, they own you. They can throttle it up, throttle it down, and they can connect it to your behavior through the social credit scores like we see happening in China. And so if you obey and are good and compliant citizen, then you can have an open bank account. But if you're not, then it's too easy for them to close your account or throttle it back. And you can have access to these funds whenever you repent from your ways, essentially. So it's way too much control. And there's a big fight to ensure that this does not take root here in America. So we had the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act, and it's a big win for freedom. Just passed the House, and major blow to the feds and their push for the CBDC, central bank digital currency. So it was led by patriots like Representative Tom Emmer, and he said, no way to the Federal Reserve issuing this digital dollar that could track every move, control your wallet, crush your financial freedom. So again, China, this is where what they implement, a step in this direction will be a step directly towards communism. So here's the deal. The bill bans the Fed from handing out CBDCs directly to folks or using them for monetary policy. And it stops them from playing Big Brother with your money. It keeps them from collecting data, freezing accounts, like we saw in the Canada truckers protest. You remember that just a few years ago when they were able to close down these Canadian truckers' bank accounts? Well, this would protect against that. It would protect against private, decentralized currencies like Bitcoin and keeping the government out of your business. And that's the big win there. Trump, he's on board. He signed an executive order in January banning the CBDCs. And it's good to see now we're getting this codified into law. So we need to watch this. It's going to the Senate. And it looks like we may have some senators dragging their feet. And of course, the Dems are going to be decrying this and saying that it hurts innovation and progress. These progressive folks, they love progress towards communism. And so we're not going that way. And we need to watch this in the Senate to make sure it passed. But it would kill community banks. It would limit credit. It would ensure Big Brother has control over your wallet. So I want to make sure this is shut down and watch this in the Senate. So, and then also we have this Genius Act. And so originally this was marked as it was a bit of a different bill that's been transformed, of course, in the process. And it was marked as a prudential framework for ensuring the safety of privately issued stable coins. But it's interesting that we had this anti-CBDC Act, but we also have this Genius Act that might be a de facto retail CBDC system. And so we want to make sure that this is not providing a loophole to allow something that this other act seems to disallow. It's amazing how these things happen. So let's see. According to this article here, Peter Earle, he says that while the legislation was marked primarily as a prudential framework for ensuring the safety of privately issued stablecoins, it may inadvertently or by subtle design create an opening for the emergence of a de facto retail CBDC system, one implemented not by the Federal Reserve, but by the commercial banks it closely supervises. So he said, at its core, the Genius Act seeks to clarify and centralize stablecoin issuance. Under the bill, non-bank entities would be prohibited from issuing dollar-referenced stablecoins directly to retail consumers unless operating through a bank charter subject to full federal oversight, deposit insurance requirements, and strict capital standards. The political motivation behind this bill is straightforward: to ensure that any digital representation of the dollar circulating among consumers remains firmly embedded within the banking system as currently regulated, thereby reducing risks to consumers and avoiding the systemic fragilities that might arise from shadow banking-like arrangements in crypto markets. So, not a simple issue here. But this article goes on to say, and I think this is what I want to highlight here. It says, beneath the surface, the legislation may have broader implications for the future shape of U.S. digital money. To understand why, one must first consider the current constitutional and statutory limitations on the Federal Reserve's authority to issue retail digital currency. The Federal Reserve Act provides no explicit authorization for the Fed to offer digital accounts or liabilities directly to the general public. While the Fed has explored the development of wholesale CBDC frameworks for interbank settlement, any effort to launch a true retail CBDC would likely require new congressional legislation and almost certainly spark extensive legal and constitutional challenges concerning both privacy rights and the separation of monetary and physical powers. So thankfully, we had the CBDC, the anti-CBDC Act that I just mentioned, and it's explicitly seeking to prevent the Federal Reserve from issuing any form of retail CBDC without clear congressional authorization. So we have that protection there with that other bill I just mentioned. But we want to make sure that any loopholes are closed with this Genius Act. So keep your eye on that, the Genius Act, that may allow retail CBDC by bypassing the banking system where there's regulation and taking it directly to the retail market. And, I want to make sure I have my mind completely around this as well. And the thing I do know is we do not want federally controlled or state controlled central bank digital currency, because that would be the end of freedom. Okay, that would be direct communism. And this is something I think is very important that we need to keep our eye on. So watch this Genius Act, watch the CBDC implications there. And it could be one of the more important things that's going under the radar, unfortunately, because of all the emphasis on the Epstein files. But it's very important. And that's why I wanted to make sure you are aware of it. I'm watching it. I'm going to continue doing some studying on this. And I intend to report on this later today on the Jake for the State podcast. Now, I also want to remind you that, I've had a couple of failed launches with my new show, but thankfully it's good to go. Okay. The new show, Drill Baby Drill, that I'm very excited about. And let me see, I think I have a screen recording for you, but it's an opportunity to connect with experts in particular fields. And what I've been saying, drill down on them, expose the corruption, and seek out solutions. And so that's what we're going to do on this new show I'm launching, Drill Baby Drill. It's going to come out tonight at 6:00. So I said that on Monday. I intended to get it released on Monday, but had some editing issues and had to go back and fix a few things. Finally got it ready to go. And here's a little preview of it.
Time to drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill.
him as he finishes up his second term.
And let's get going. It's time to drill, baby, drill.
So I'm going to release that. And this one focuses on DHS, specifically child welfare in the state of Oklahoma. It is in need of massive reform. And this is an area that's very near and dear to our hearts because we adopted out of DHS and witnessed firsthand the systemic corruption and brokenness. And it's across the board. I think we need new, clear leadership. I think we need new protocols. I think we need to revamp the judicial system with a few key moves, like appointed judges being required to go to a retention ballot. As we'll see a lot of corruption, it seems, with these appointed judges. Again, as in all areas, whether it's law enforcement or teachers or judges, not all are bad. I'm not saying that, but we have some very concerning examples of corruption, and it seems to be connected to some of these appointed judges. So that's one way to help with this issue, is require them to go to a retention ballot to stay in place. Then you must be reelected, and those people over which you judge will now judge you, and that creates a balance, creates transparency. Speaking of transparency, I think we need to move to an open court system where the recordings of the court are available to the public. We can see what's being discussed and how it's being discussed within the court. And other states are implementing this, and it just provides extra transparency to the court and family court in particular, and the child welfare area. So much is needed there that I will make a priority when elected to governor of Oklahoma. And we'll talk about it in this show. So that I'm going to launch that tonight at 6:00. Hope to see you there. It's all recorded, but take a look at it. Let me know what you think, and I'll be talking about it later. But drill, baby, drill. I'll be posting the links on Facebook and X, and you can find it if you search for Drill, Baby, Drill on YouTube. But hey, be sure to check out the links. That's all I got for you this morning. Just a brief update. I wanted to bring your attention to that CBDC. I want to talk about bringing the UFC, the DC, and maybe to Oklahoma state capitol if I'm elected. Maybe we have to have some UFC fights there at the governor's mansion. So thanks for jumping in. I appreciate all your support. Again, check the links, share this, because that helps to get the message out. And I will see you later. You guys have an awesome weekend. I can't believe it's already Friday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your freedom. I'll see you back here Monday.